Grumpy the Iguana has a life-changing event and now he feels lost. Will friends come to his aid? Welcome to Zoom Into Books today and meet children's book author Susan Marie Chapman. Grumpy the Iguana is fourth in Susan Chapman's award-winning children's book series. It recently won a Next Generation Indie Book Award for Best Series Fiction. Susan was born and lived most of her life on a farm in southern Pennsylvania. And after raising her family, she moved to Miami Beach and started writing children's books. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, how are you today? It's nice to meet you.
It's so nice to have you on Zoom Into Books today. To start off, I'd like for you to tell the viewers about yourself and the inspiration for the book. And if you have a copy there, hold it up so we can see it.
All right, I do. Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Chapman, and I am an author. This is my book, Grumpy the Iguana, which I'll be reading to you today. I live in Miami Beach, Florida, and as you know, there's a lot of iguanas in Florida. I grew up in Pennsylvania, which is a totally different atmosphere. Pennsylvania has a lot of farmland, where I grew up in southern Pennsylvania on a farm, and we had a lot of different animals. And I loved growing up with a lot of cats and dogs and chickens and geese and little piglets. But the other thing that I really enjoyed was being in nature and being outside all day long and just playing with the animals. And we had a huge garden that we grew a lot of vegetables. And when I was in school in 6th grade, I wrote a story that my English teacher helped me with after school every day. And we sent it off to a magazine and it was published. I won an award for it. And ever since then, I've really enjoyed reading and writing. It opens up so many doors to your imagination, and it's wonderful. Reading is wonderful. I can't say enough about it. When I was in high school, I was the editor of the school paper. So that was another experience that I had. And after that, when I was in college, after I graduated from college, I went to school in Pennsylvania too for college. But after I graduated, I worked in sales, and I kind of forgot about writing. I was working, making some money, and I met my husband. We got married. We had 2 children. And years later, I moved to Florida, and that's when I started to think about writing again. And I have my 2 little dogs, my Pomeranians, and they were an inspiration for me to start writing. This particular book was written because I used to go to the park every day. I was in a terrible accident and I was injured and I couldn't walk very well. I limped for about 6 months. I almost lost a leg, but I would go to the park and I would do some stretching. And when I was at the park, I would see an iguana. And this iguana, he was a big boy. He was really long and very intimidating. But iguanas are not harmful. They won't hurt you. They won't bite you. And they only eat grass and things like that. They don't eat meat or anything. But this iguana had a routine, and he would do the same thing every day. And one day I went to the park and he was just standing still in place. And he looked really grumpy. And I thought, what is going on with that iguana? Then I noticed that somebody had cut down his tree and he didn't know what to do. He just stood there. He had no idea what to do next. So I thought, I'm going to write a story about him. So that's how this all came about. So I think if you would like, I can read you this story, and I hope that you will love it too.
That would be wonderful. We're going to get the book up on the screen here. Okay, Grumpy the Iguana. Let's hear all about it.
Okay. Grumpy the Iguana by Susan Chapman. Illustrated by Natalie Losfa. I'm sorry. This is the story of Grumpy the Iguana. Grumpy was not always grumpy. Something happened to him that changed his life. Grumpy lives in Flamingo Park in Miami Beach. Grumpy is a loner who loves his daily routine. Grumpy has a schedule and he sticks to it day in and day out every day. I wanted to talk a little bit about the artwork. Now, Natalie is a wonderful artist. And when I first started to look for my Grumpy, as far as somebody drawing him, I went through several people sent me their artwork. And finally, when Natalie sent me hers, I said to myself, oh my goodness, that's Grumpy. She has captured his personality and his looks and everything about him. So it worked out perfectly. And in this picture, you can see a little bit of Flamingo Park. Although there are no flamingos in Flamingo Park, they don't actually live in Florida, but they are beautiful. And you can just look at this picture, and if you want, you can tell me how many flamingos you see here and what it looks like. They're scratching around looking for some food in the little pool of water there, and the beautiful green trees and the blue sky. And that's what Miami is like. It's just like that. When Grumpy wakes up in the morning, he climbs down from his tree and immediately looks for his breakfast. His favorite food happens to be the yummy grass that grows at the bottom of his tree home. That's what iguanas like. They love grass. They eat a lot of it. After breakfast, Grumpy likes to find a puddle so he can splash some water on his face. He spends the rest of the day on his favorite rock, soaking up the sun. That's what iguanas do. If you come to Florida, you will see them. They usually find a nice rock to sit on, and they just stay in the sun all day long. They love that. They love the heat. They do not like the cold at all. And even though iguanas are not originally from Florida, they're from South America. And just like green parrots are not originally from Florida either. They are from South America. So they either somebody brought one to Florida one time, maybe packed in their suitcase, we don't know, but how they got here, and they ended up staying, and then they, of course they had babies or they multiplied, and now they're all over the place, different colors. Some of them are yellow, some of them are green, but they're all beautiful. Time to go home, Grumpy says. As soon as it starts to get dark, he makes his way back to his tree home and to his cozy bed. This was Grumpy's routine for many years, and Grumpy was a happy iguana. And you can see in this picture his little trail that he takes. He goes from his tree, and he has his little routine where he splashes some water on his face from the little pond, and then he heads over to his rock so he can lay in the sun all day. And then after that, he heads home again. Until one day, Grumpy climbed down from his tree and stretched his legs. He looked around Everything was as it should be. Perfect, thought Grumpy, just the way I like it. He had some yummy grass for breakfast. He splashed some water on his face, and then he headed to his favorite rock to get some sun. This was the perfect day, thought Grumpy, as he walked back to his tree home. All of a sudden, Grumpy stopped in his tracks. Something was terribly wrong. Where is my tree home? Poor Grumpy. Someone came by and cut down his tree while he was having a wonderful day, sunning himself on his rock. That's so sad. Grumpy could not believe what he was seeing. His home was gone. Grumpy did not know what to do. He sat down and just stared at the spot where his home used to be. Poor Grumpy. Now what is he going to do? Oh my goodness. I feel so bad for him. That night, Grumpy slept under the bleachers in the park. He did not get much sleep, and his mood had changed from being a happy iguana to becoming a grumpy iguana. Poor little Grumpy. He had to sleep on the bleachers. His home's gone. He doesn't know where to go. He no longer had a routine. He no longer had a cozy tree bed to sleep in. For the next few weeks, Grumpy was not himself. He was out of his comfort zone. And when his neighbors tried to console him, Grumpy just grumbled. Uh-oh, now he's getting a little grumpy because he doesn't know what to do. One day, Grumpy noticed a green parrot high up in a tree. The parrot was very happy and he was singing. What does that parrot have to be so happy about? Grumpy thought to himself. Look how beautiful that parrot is. This is exactly the way they look in Miami Beach. They're so beautiful. You can hear them talking to each other all day long. They hide up in the trees, and they're really a part of South Florida and Miami. When the green parrot noticed Grumpy in the grass below, he flew down and landed right next to Grumpy. Hello there, Mr. Iguana. How are you on this glorious day? There is nothing glorious about today or any other day for that matter, replied Grumpy. Oh my, you are really grumpy, the green parrot screeched. Well, you would be too if you lost your home, Grumpy yelled back. So now they're face to face, the iguana and the green parrot. I wonder what's going to happen next. The green parrot looked at Grumpy and realized all he needed was a good friend, someone to understand him, someone to show him some compassion and possibly help him. Listen, said the green parrot, I know of this great tree not far from here that needs some attention, and I think it would be perfect for you. Oh, isn't that nice? This green parrot is so nice. Grumpy lifted his head, and for the first time in a long time, Grumpy smiled. Tell me more, Grumpy said. The green parrot started to sing. Follow me, my friend, as he hopped through the grass and led Grumpy to the most beautiful tree he had ever seen. And right in front of this beautiful tree was plenty of yummy grass for Grumpy to enjoy. Does anyone see the little inchworm on the tree? Can you find it? There's a little friend there. Grumpy climbed up into the tree and immediately found the perfect spot to sleep. "How did you find this place?" Grumpy asked the green parrot. "I happen to live here, and now I would like to share my home with you. There is more than enough room for both of us," the green parrot announced. Grumpy was no longer grumpy. Does everyone see the little bed inside the tree? Grumpy's little pillow and blanket where he can sleep at night. That is so cozy. He was happy once again because he had a home, he had a routine, and he had a new friend for life. See, now they have a tree home together. The green parrot and Grumpy the iguana were always seen together after that day. And if you saw one of them, you knew that the other was not far behind. The end.
Susan, that was terrific.
Thank you.
We've had quite a few people join us on Facebook Live. We want to thank you for joining us. And if you missed the first part of that book, it will be on the Facebook page for you to watch anytime you like. The inspirational story that you told us, you were telling us that they were cutting down the great big trees in the park.
Yes, I didn't realize it at the time. I just noticed that the iguana was standing there and his tree was gone. And the day after I saw that, I found out that the park where they were cutting down a lot of the 100-year-old trees in the park to make way for some new buildings that they were going to put inside the park. And people started to protest. All the people in the neighborhood, they had signs and they went to the park and they said, you know, "You're murdering our trees and animals are losing all their place where they live." And they were really upset about it. No one really knew that they were going to be cutting down these trees. They knew about the improvements, but nothing was mentioned about cutting down trees. So there were a lot of people upset about that.
Well, unfortunately, that happens more often than we'd like.
It really does.
For those of you on Facebook, if you have questions for Susan, please type them in the comments. We have had a question. How many iguana books are there?
Well, I now have 10 iguana book, 10 in my series. There's at this time, there's 5 published. And so the rest of them are with the publisher. And he's trying to catch up with me because during the pandemic, I wrote a lot. And the stories just came to me. Grumpy, in each book, a character is added and they all go on adventures and they solve these problems. And in the books, the children and the parents will learn about animals that live in Miami Beach, animals in this, it's about sea life and animals that live on land. So I even did a holiday book where Grumpy goes home for the holidays. He has a mom and a dad and a little sister. So he takes a bus and he goes to the Florida Keys. That's where he grew up. So each book is connected to the next one. So if you follow my Grumpy books, you'll be so excited. You won't be able to wait to read the next one. And a lot of people in Florida are very excited about these books. They ask me all the time, when's the next Grumpy book coming out? So you'll learn about sea turtles, about manatees. There's a book about a squirrel and a little mouse that lives in the park that's lonely and has a lot of fears. So it covers a lot of different issues. So
That's great that the books are prolific. Once you build a fan base, then they are anxious for the next one to
They
come.
really, yes, they really are.
It's interesting. I noticed from your history, you grew up on a farm and you're writing about life in Florida. So that's kind of a big switch. There was one very interesting thing in your bio that I'd like to hear the story about. It's about your great grandfather.
Yes. My great grandfather, which is my dad's grandfather, he was living in Philadelphia as a young boy. He was 11 years old, and he quit school to help his parents. And he worked 3 jobs, and eventually he started to work for a builder. And then after that, he went from there and he opened up his own business with his wife. They worked together. They ended up having 13 children together. And my great grandfather, when he saw the Philadelphia area, it was all farmland, and he started building, just working all the time, and he ended up building over 40,000 homes in the Philadelphia, in the city and outside of the city. And in 1 year, he made, this is in the 1920s too, and this was right before the stock market crashed. The stock market crashed in 1928. So in 1927, he made $28 million in 1 year. And he paid the highest taxes of anybody in the whole United States. And when he did that, the president of the United States, which was Calvin Coolidge at the time, he asked my great grandfather to come to the White House. He said, because you're so honest, you don't want to cheat anyone out of any money. He said, I want to teach you how to write off some things so you don't have to pay all these taxes. So my great grandfather, he kept journals, and he wrote about taking a train and going to the White House and meeting the president. And it was really something. He was such a great man. He loved everyone. He said hello to all the people that worked for him every day, even the people that worked in the alley. He built a great big building in the city, and he was a very special man. People said that even 10 years after he built their house, he would come back and fix things if they needed it for free, wouldn't charge them. So that was the kind of person he was. But so yes, I have a lot of history in the Philadelphia area.
That's truly the story of the American dream.
It really is. It really is.
Did they come from Ireland? Is that?
They did. My great grandfather, his parents came from Ireland and settled in Philadelphia. And my dad actually met my mother. She was born in Ireland too. And my dad was, he's a veteran, and he was stationed in London after the World War II. And he was actually a structural engineer that helped to rebuild the airport after it was bombed. And while he was stationed in London, he met my mother there because she was living there at the time. So both my parents are actually from Ireland. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's terrific. You have another series of books. Would you like to tell us about them?
Sure. When I first started writing books, I was inspired to write by my 2 little dogs. I have 2 little fluffy Pomeranian sisters, and their names are Sugar and Cookie. I'll show you the front of my very first book that I wrote. And this is called Love, Sugar, and Cookie. And this tells the story of 2 sisters that are twins. They look the same, but they're not the same. They're very, very different. One is little. Can you see
Hold the
it?
book. Hold the book up higher.
Okay, can
There
you see
you go.
it? Yep.
Excellent.
One is little, one is big, one eats slow, one eats fast, one doesn't like to walk, one likes to run. So a lot of little children love this book. I started reading at the Children's Hospital for the sick children in Miami. And I only planned on going once and doing a reading for the children there. And I ended up going, they asked me to come back. I was going once a month to the hospital to read until the pandemic. But the way I imagined it, I thought all the little children would come down and sit down and listen to my book, but a lot of them were too sick to do that. So I ended up reading to parents, believe it or not, and siblings. And the parents were in tears. They said to me, "You don't know what this meant. I took my mind off my little baby is in an operation 8 hours long. And I was so upset. And then when I started listening to your book, I was distracted for a minute and it really helped me a lot." So that made me feel really good. And I would take t-shirts and sign books for the parents and the siblings, and they just loved it. And I also do readings at schools and at libraries and at bookstores. So I've been doing things like that, but every day I work on my books. Every day I do. And, you know, this is supposed to be an inspiration for children. If they love writing and they love reading, when they grow up, maybe they'll be a children's book author, you know. So this is to inspire little children that are small now, but that have a great imagination and have something that they want to write about. You know, they can start now and just write some things down that they enjoy doing, or, you know, keep a journal and just write all your favorite things down, because you never know, when you get older, you might look back and you think, oh, I can write about that, you know. So that might be something.
Those are all great ideas. And for those of you who have joined us late, we're talking with Susan Marie Chapman, who is an award-winning author of the Grumpy the Iguana series. And you just got some great news. You won an Indie Book Award.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm very proud of that. I won an award for my books, right? For Grumpy. And there's one. And here's my second book. This is my second Grumpy book. This is called Mr. Squirrel Finds a Treasure. And this is actually about how litter affects animals. And that's very important, because when litter is scattered on the ground, little animals come along. They may smell like the sweetness of sugar or juice or something, or food, and they may pick up these litter, like maybe a piece of plastic, and it can be dangerous to animals. They can get it stuck in their throat. It can hurt them. So we have to be very, you know, I want little children to be aware of, when they see litter, how it can affect the animals. So I wrote a little story about how animals got together and decided to do something about the trash. And then my next book after that is called Tooth by Sea. And you can see Grumpy and you can see the green parrot. They decide to go fishing for the day, a day of friendship and fun. And they go out in the ocean, but instead of catching a fish, something else happens. So they meet another friend that's having that's in trouble. It's a great big sea turtle, and they help him. They help him get some help. So that's kind of a nice thing too. And they also see a lot of plastic in the water. So they're upset about that. And then the next book is Grumpy Goes Home for the Holidays. And this is a book of love and a family. And Grumpy learns a very special lesson. When he goes home, he sees his mom and his dad and his little sister. And he has some gifts for them to give to them for the holidays. And he ends up, he loses one of the gifts. And then he learns that the gifts aren't really important, but he's important. His family just want to see him. It doesn't matter about the gifts. So that's a very special message that the kids will love to read about. And then my next book, this is also a Grumpy book. This is called The Wish Box. And this is a very special book. This is about a little mouse that has a lot of fears. And Grumpy and you can see Mr. Squirrel there. We saw him in another book, but he gives the little mouse a wish box as a gift. And inside the wish box are wishes. So the little mouse can take out the wishes. And then as a family, Grumpy and the green parrot and Mr. Squirrel, they can all do one of the wishes in the wish box that he has. So that's all I have so far. But
those look like fun family reading books. They really do. And I think they would be excellent for the summer reading program too. Something to think about. I know a lot of children's authors visit retirement communities and nursing homes, and the people who are there love to hear children's books.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. That's a wonderful idea. I would love to do that.
When you were talking about Children's Hospital, which is so important, and it is nice to get a respite from all the turmoil the families are going through. And you can spread that kind of joy also in nursing homes too.
I would love to try. I would love to do that. I'm going to look into that because my Grumpy book is also, I give a percentage of that to, if you look on the back of it, you'll see a portion of this book is donated to the Nicholas Children's Hospital Foundation. And after I was reading there for a couple months, they had asked me if I would like to be involved in having one of my books as an official book for the hospital. But I haven't really made that much money that I can donate anything to them yet. So instead, I send like 50 books at a time to the hospital. So I did that during the pandemic so that the children would be able to have a book each and just read it when they're lying in bed and they can't get up. And I thought they would enjoy that. So I've just been donating books instead.
That's terrific. Another good way to get children's books into the hands of children is to find a group or corporation who would like to be a donor. And the books can be personalized with the donor's name, and they can be distributed to schools. We have several authors that have been able to do that too. And it's an eternal gift. When you give books to children, they take them home, and when they grow up, generally the parents, if they don't have other relatives to take the books, they donate them to libraries. So it's always an enduring gift. I know that now things are opening up because of the pandemic. Do you have any events coming up you'd like to tell people about?
I don't really have anything yet. I've just been working on writing a lot. I've been concentrating on, I just finished a book. It's called My Name is Baby, and it's about a baby manatee. And now I'm actually working on another sugar and cookie book. So I haven't really been doing events, but I've just been trying to finish these books, and then I can concentrate on looking into some avenues where I can, you know, do some more reading and go into bookstores or the library and things like that.
I've posted the link to Susan's website in the Facebook comments so you can get in touch with her. I'm sure you do school visits.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
Go into the schools, and there's a wealth of educational information about iguanas in these books, and in your other books you can learn about pet care, how to take care of your dogs, all the different kind of dog breeds that there are.
Mhm.
And I would imagine you're also available for virtual school visits too.
Yes, that would be amazing. I would love to do that.
The wonderful thing about virtual visits is they're global. We've had authors speak to schools in Spain, in the UK. It's amazing.
Wow.
The world becomes small when you start thinking about technology that way.
That's true. A
Susan.
lot of great things are happening now with virtual.
That's true. And, you know, the students are so glad to be back into school. And the school visits, the authors are starting to pick up schedules now for school visits.
Mhm.
So that's terrific. So we always ask everybody who comes on Zoom into Books,
Mhm.
who do you read? Who's your favorite author?
Oh my goodness. Well, you mean for children's books?
Children's books or novels? What do you like to read?
Well, I like to read. I've read all the. I actually by the age of 12, I read all the books like Jane Eyre, Charles Dickens, all the classics. I read all the classics by the age of 12, and my favorite book was Gone with the Wind. That was my favorite book. So I've been reading. I haven't been reading any novels lately. I've been mostly reading a lot of books about just how can I say it? Like I can't think of the word. I'm just learning things, like books, not about stories, but of writers, manuscripts. I've been reading a lot about crystals. I don't know if you're into spirituality, but I've invented something, so I've been working on that, and it has to do with crystals and the healing properties of crystals. So I've been reading about that a lot and learning about the different healing properties that each one has. So mostly educational things. That's
Well,
that's what I was
great.
trying to look for. Yeah.
So what was the name of the first children's book you wrote and was published?
Oh, the first one would be Love, Sugar, and Cookie. I'll get it again, this one.
Okay. So for other first-time authors, do you have any advice? I mean, that book was about your dogs,
Yes.
and then you had an experience in the park. So all those experience that we have, they always drive you to do research next. That's always the next thing.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
what advice and encouragement can you give to first-time authors?
Well, my experience was organic. I didn't really plan on doing this. It just kind of happened. I was inspired by my dogs, and I thought to myself, you know, little children would love to see pictures of my dogs and learn about them. And I actually wrote, this is my second book about my dogs. That's my dog Cookie, and it's about the day Cookie was lost, and she wasn't really lost, but that's the first question children ask. Well, was your dog lost and what happened? But my son was actually lost when he was a child, and it was really upsetting. So I wrote a book for parents and children about my baby getting lost. So, but
Well, that's a frightening experience.
yeah, it was awful. He was lost for about an hour on the beach. And we even called the police, and we looked everywhere. We couldn't find him. I was with my sister-in-law and my friend, and I just I was standing looking out to the ocean, and I said a prayer to God, and it was one of the scariest times in my life. And then all of a sudden I saw a man, and he had my son on his shoulders, and he was walking along the beach, and I just couldn't believe it. And he told me that, he said, I saw your son on the beach, and he was just standing there. My son was 3 years old. And he said, I asked him where his mommy was, and he pointed in the right direction. He had ran 10 blocks down the beach, 10 blocks. And the man said, well, I'll put you on my shoulders, and then you can look for your mom, and you tell me if you see her. And that's how I found my son. So
Oh, that's a frightening story.
it was, yeah, I usually start crying when I tell the story, but I'm glad I didn't do that today. But yeah, it was really upsetting. So.
Well, it's all those life experiences that makes people write. And I'm so glad that you did. Now, what's the title of your new book that will be coming out?
Well, the book that's coming out next is called Babies on Board. That's a Grumpy book. It's about baby sea turtles. And there's two parts to this book. There's part one that happens during the day when Little Mouse takes out a wish from his wish box. And the wish says, beach day with your family. And he goes to Grumpy and he says, Grumpy, my wish says beach day with the family, so we need to go to the beach. So they all make their way to the beach. And when they get to the beach, they see this very strange yellow tape with poles. And Little Mouse says, well, what is that? And they explain to him that that's a sea turtle nest, that there's baby sea turtles there. So, and then they happen to see their old friend, Mr. Sea Turtle. He's out in the ocean. So he's there waiting for his babies to be born. And he tells Grumpy and the green parrot. So they say, well, why don't we help you? We'll come back tonight and we can help you on land. And the big sea turtle says, well, I'll be out here in the ocean waiting for my babies. And so Grumpy and his friends, they come back at night. And then the baby sea turtles are born. But a lot of problems start to happen because the baby sea turtles, they get confused because they see the street lights. So instead of going towards the moonlight and the ocean, they start to go towards the street. So then they have to figure out, without touching them, you can't touch a baby sea turtle because that'll erase their ancestral imprint. So when baby sea turtles are born, their mother imprints them with knowledge that when they're older, they come back to the same spot to give birth to their babies. So this is a big thing that people don't understand about sea turtles. So Grumpy and the gang, they have to decide, well, what are we gonna do? And the Mr. Squirrel is all upset because he's like, there's 80 of them, and they're all over the place. And what do we do? So they figure it out. But it's a really cute story. And I also, after that, I have 2 books about owls, because, you know, we have owls here too, little screech owls, and they're the size of robins. So it teaches the kids all about screech owls and what they like to eat and when they go to sleep and when they wake up. And it's a really cute story. So.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot to look forward to from Susan Marie Chapman. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And, for those, go to her website, susanmariechapman.com. If you missed the beginning of this video, it will stay on the Zoom Into Books Facebook page. You can catch it anytime. And in the coming weeks, it will also be on the Zoom Into Books YouTube channel. And please contact Susan if you'd like to have her come to your school or speak to your group. I know she'd be happy to talk with you about that. And congratulations on your books and your book awards. And
thank you.
I hope that we get to see you on Zoom Into Books again, Susan.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.